Let's look at the top of the Premier League, because that's where we'll find your former club.
Who's at the top?
There they are. Liverpool, 2 points ahead of Arsenal and
3
points ahead of Manchester City after the 3-1 victory over Sheffield United on Thursday. Manchester United, meanwhile, in 6th after their dramatic 4-3 loss away to Chelsea also on Thursday. Those two, of course, set to meet Sunday at Old Trafford. The odds makers have Liverpool installed as favourites, that despite their FA Cup defeat at Old Trafford just about 3 weeks ago. What else are we hearing from in and around the club? And just as somebody who's covered this team under Erik Ten Hag for a long time, would you back them to muster a response on Sunday?
Well, as Robbo said, you can't predict United, and it would be foolish to say they can't get a result in this game, because they can. They showed it 2 or 3 weeks ago in the FA Cup, but I do think that was kind of a fluke. I think it was a fortunate win, because Liverpool should have won that game, and I think on this occasion United are probably weaker because of the injuries they've got. Varane, like say, Evans is out as well. I think it'll be Willy Kambwala at the back alongside Harry Maguire. So the fullbacks will be the same. You've got Dalot and Wan-Bissaka, who both lacked a bit of concentration, shall we say, at Chelsea. They're not the best defenders in the world, so I don't see many changes. And I think now what we're looking at is the long goodbye with Erik Ten Hag. I just think we're getting to the point now where he can't save himself. I think that they're so far off the top 4, 5th spot, even if that's a Champions League spot, they're nowhere near that. And I think they had such a bad season in the Champions League, being knocked out the group stage. I just don't see how he can turn it around now. He spoke about 2 or 3 months ago, judge me when the players are fit. Well, they've been fit and they're injured again. We don't know why that is, but it's still a worry. And they've got a massive game at the weekend against Liverpool. There's no real sign that they can get anything out of it. And then they've got, the FA Cup semi-final. They should win against a team for the Championship, but will they beat Chelsea or Man City in the final? Debatable. So I think this is a long drained out end to the season, and it probably lose to Liverpool on Sunday. It'll be an even longer drain out to the season, because that's the biggest rivals.
Speaking of Erik Ten Hag, he's had some interesting comments, Stevie, ahead of this game between Manchester United and Liverpool on Sunday. Let's take a look at him. Talking about the defeat away to Chelsea, quote, "Manchester United dominated the game, but we made individual errors that cost us the game. We have to learn from it. When you are a Man United player, you should already know how to deal with this circumstance." Throwing the players under the bus there, Stevie?
To be honest, after the first line, I stopped listening.
Why?
Did you see the game against Chelsea? They dominated the game. Are you serious? They got completely shellacked for 34 minutes, and then they pounced on a horrendous mistake from Chelsea. And from that point on, this game was back and forward like a schoolboy game. At no stage did Manchester United dominate this game. They may have got themselves from 2-0 down to 3-2 up, but they certainly didn't dominate anybody. I mean, how many times is he going to come out and say things that are just not true? That's disingenuous. They did not dominate this game at all. Absolutely not.
Mark, you've said long goodbye. Can you give us a heat check right now on Erik Ten Hag's seat? Because it feels like this game could be a blowout, and if it is, I wouldn't want to be in his chair come Monday.
Yeah, I don't think they'll get rid of him, the new board in Ineos. I don't think that they'll make a change before the end of the season. And that, the on-record noises from United at the moment are, he's our manager and we're planning for next season with Erik Ten Hag. But I don't think anybody believes that. I don't think Erik Ten Hag believes it. What I'm hearing behind the scenes is that, he's toast. He's gone. He won't be there next season because a variety of reasons. The fact that they keep getting beat and they keep dropping points late in games, really late in games. But beyond that, they're 6th in the table. They're nowhere near the Champions League spots, and he's massively underperformed this season. And if you manage Man United or Liverpool or Man City, if you underperform as the coach or the manager, you get one chance, and that chance is this season for Ten Hag. And I think I'd be amazed if he stays. The only thing, there's 2 things that might keep him. First of all, it will cost around £14 million compensation to move him on and his coaches, which is, it's not massive money, but it's money in the sense that United haven't got a lot to play with this summer, and they'll need to put every penny and pound they've got in the transfer market. And then the second thing is that there might not be a massive queue of coaches wanting to take the job, but it's Man United. So obviously there will be coaches out there better than Ten Hag who want to take the job. So I just think that, the chance of getting the top 4 was what was probably keeping him alive. But I think now that has realistically gone. They're not playing well enough to get in the top 4. They'll probably get to the FA Cup final, unless if they lose to Coventry in the semi-final, then that might finish him off then, because they're a Championship team. But I think the reality is that he's not impressed Ineos. He's not impressed the players. He's not impressing the fans right now with the tactics and the selection. So I don't know what keeps him there. He's not done enough to persuade them to stay. So I think as soon as the season finishes, we'll see Ten Hag moved on and they'll find a new manager, which, as we know, they're very keen on Gareth Southgate, which hasn't gone down well with the fans either. So interesting times at Man United ahead, but definitely managerial uncertainty.
Does the fact, Stevie, that 3 weeks ago Manchester United beat this Liverpool team at Old Trafford have any impact, any bearing on the game Sunday?
If there's any bearing on it, it will be Liverpool desperate to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Rashford sit or start on Sunday?
Well, it did nothing when he came on at Chelsea. I think Rasmus Højlund's a better option, so I wouldn't start him. And I think Erik Ten Hag is losing patience with Marcus Rashford and his performances and his lack of work rate. I think that's the biggest concern, that he's not really doing what he should be doing. He's not pressing from the front. He's not making the opposition defenders work. And when he's not scoring goals, he has to do something else. He has to bring something else to the table. And at the moment, he's not bringing anything. I think, the big conversation about Marcus Rashford is, do United keep him this summer or do they try and move him on? And that's going to be difficult because there's not a lot of money in the market. There aren't a lot of takers out there. But if you take out that 2-month period last year when he couldn't stop scoring, the season before that was his worst in the United shirt. He had a poor start to last season. He finished last season, he tailed off, and this season has been poor. So the trend with Marcus Rashford is that he's nowhere near the player he was when he broke through. And I think at some point, United have got to say, well, is he worth the hassle of paying him £300,000 a week and having him in the team? And, I'm not sure he is. And I think his performances this season don't merit him being in there. So as much as we've criticised Anthony all season, he played really well at Chelsea. He had a good game. You got Højlund who's doing well. He puts the work rate in. Garnacho has to start. So I wouldn't start Marcus Rashford. No, and I don't think. Well, I know the Man United fans right now would prefer Marcus Rashford on the bench than in the team.
Augie, what about this summer? Do you think United will try and move him on?
I think they would probably like to, but I just don't see who's going to take him. People are talking about PSG, but what I'm hearing, and I know Jules has heard the same, is that PSG aren't interested in Marcus Rashford. They've got other targets. So, domestically there's no market for him because nobody's got the money to take him away from Man United. And in Europe, well, the clubs that would usually spend big money, well, Real Madrid are going to sign a Kylian Mbappe on a free transfer, and that'll be all their budget gone on his signing on for his wages. Barcelona haven't got the money to do it, and whether they'd want him is a different matter. He's not a player that Bayern Munich would take, so where does he go? Where does Marcus Rashford go? I don't know where he goes, and that is United's big problem, that they've got a player that isn't really pulling up any trees. He's not justifying his salary, he's not justifying his contract, but good luck trying to find somebody to take him on, because right now there's not a lot of money in the game, bizarrely, because of how much money is in the game, but there's not a lot of money in the game swirling around for transfers, and the clubs that ordinarily would be able to afford to sign him either don't want him or have got other targets. So I think United are stuck with Marcus Rashford. The idea will be that a new manager comes in and tries to get something out of him that Erik Ten Hag isn't getting, because I don't think Rashford and Ten Hag have got the greatest relationship, and I think it's been borne out on the pitch. But somebody somewhere is going to try and get something out of Marcus Rashford. But he's 26 years old. He's not a kid anymore. Eventually, they're going to have to say, look, you've had enough chances. If you don't take the next one, we're going to have to find you somewhere else to play. You
think this is a blip, Stevie, or start of a decline? Is this maybe a time when Liverpool should start looking at moving on?
Listen, Look, if they get a crazy offer, then you've got to take it. You have to look at the big picture. You have to look after the club and the team. You can't have your blinkers on and say, oh, we just can't let this guy go. Players better and as good as Mo Salah have come and gone at Liverpool. And guess what? We're still here. Liverpool's still there, still fighting at the very top. Mm-hmm. And so if you get a crazy offer, 150 mil or whatever it may be, I would suggest that would be the figure, then you take it. But the thing about Mo Salah is he's not doing anything different than he wasn't doing 5-6 years ago. He still miscontrols it. He still gives it away. He still stands on it sometimes. So this is not all of a sudden Mo Salah is doing things that he didn't do. He's done that the whole time. The difference is the last couple of games he hasn't produced that bit of magic. The
payoff, right?
Yeah.
Payoff.
You compensate for things that he might not be so good at, because if you need a goal, who are you going to rely on more than him?
Right.
And actually, when he came off, I was a little surprised in the Sheffield game, because generally if you need a goal, you keep your goal scorer on. But having thought about it, he did look tired, he looked jaded, but then he's been out for a long time. So that catches up on you eventually. So it turned out to be the right thing to do, and I think it was the right thing to do for Salah. But I'll tell you what, he'll be playing on Sunday, and Man United will know he'll be playing on Sunday.
Mark, what's your sense here? Do you think we're seeing the end of Salah at Liverpool?
Do you know something? I don't. And I've had this conversation with other people as well, and I think, his contract expires at the end of next season, so obviously they've got an issue there they need to address. And with Klopp going this summer, I just don't think they can afford to have Klopp go and Mo Salah go at the same time. I just think it would be too much of a loss for the team and the club to lose their manager and their best player. So I think Salah could be still delivering in 3 or 4 years' time. He looks after himself. He's got a great lifestyle. He's never relied on a massive burst of pace, but he's just got, he's the ultimate big game player. I don't think you look around the Premier, look at Erling Haaland, you look at the Arsenal players. There's nobody at any of the other clubs that delivers in the big games as often as Mo Salah does. So I think if I was Liverpool, I'd actually consider giving him a new contract, because I think he is a player that you can back to be still doing what he does now. Maybe not at the absolute level he does it at, but certainly not far off for the next 3 or 4 years. And I see what Steve is saying about the money that could come in for him, but he's still a massive player for Liverpool and a massive figure. And yes, he looks tired at the moment, but if you had to back a player right now in the Premier League to win you a game, a massive game when it mattered, it'd be Mo Salah, because that's what he's done for the last 4 or 5 years. So I'd stick with him as long as possible, because I think, like they say at Liverpool, form is temporary, class is permanent, and he's the absolute example of that.
I'm saying you get the offer, you take it.
Right.
And one of the reasons I'm saying that is not only just because you look at the big picture, but let's not forget, when Mo Salah was away, Liverpool coped fine.
Right.
Liverpool won games. Liverpool scored goals. They've still got other players who can score goals. If there was going to be one player, I would suggest that you re-sign. And as much as I love Salah, I would suggest it's Virgil van Dijk. I think Virgil van Dijk would be a bigger loss.
Really?
Absolutely, I do, yeah.
Because of the position, or
well,
why?
You can't. I've just told you that when Mo Salah left, they still won games. They replaced them within the squad they have. Never mind being able to get 150 million and go and buy somebody else to play up front. But Virgil van Dijk, no Virgil van Dijk, I don't know how you replace him.
Robbo, you can only pick one to keep at Liverpool. Van Dijk or Salah, who are you keeping?
I'm going with Stevie again. Van Dijk has been their leader. He's the player that gives them that little bit of solidity when the other teams look at the team sheet and they see that Van Dijk is on it. They know they're going to have struggle to score goals. And he's going to be a threat at set plays at both ends. And he's the leader of the team. So I would agree. I would keep Salah as well, mind you. But Van Dijk is the question you asked. Van Dijk would be the one.
Robbo, some are suggesting that this is pretty much the biggest hurdle left for Liverpool in their Premier League title chase. They've still got Spurs at home. They're away to West Ham. They're away to Villa, away to Everton. I mean, there's some challenging away trips there for Liverpool still on the slate. But do you think if they can beat Manchester United on Sunday, the title is theirs?
I wouldn't say the title's theirs, but I don't think they're going to drop too many points from now to the end of the season. And this game at Manchester United, they are, as the table would suggest, a much, much better team than Manchester United. But Stevie will tell you there's something about Old Trafford that Liverpool have gone there when they've been a great side and not always won there. Manchester United raised their game suddenly. But I still think Liverpool will be far too strong for Manchester United on Sunday. And I expect them not to drop that many points from now to the end of the season. That Tottenham game could be a tough one. And West Ham, every so often, pull a good performance out against Liverpool when they're playing at home.
Mark, is this the biggest test left for Liverpool, away at Old Trafford?
I think it probably is, simply because of what happened in the Cup tie of the week and how the tradition between the clubs and the rivalry, and how United do have to kind of, at some point, bounce back from that terrible performance at Chelsea, or terrible result at Chelsea. So it's the toughest game because of the history of the fixture rather than the actual form of the two teams. And I think if Liverpool can go there and get a win, the boost they'll get from that will be massive. And I think, they do have an advantage right now over Liverpool over Arsenal and City in terms of points and goals. So, yeah, it probably is the toughest game, because I think a win at this one will give them a real kind of springboard going forward. But, get this one out of the way. And there are tougher games down the line. But I do think this is a big hurdle to overcome. But not because of the form right now, but because of the history of the fixture.
What do you think, Stevie? Time to pop the champagne Sunday? Should Liverpool get the job done?
Well, I know everybody's completely discounting them, but we've still got to go to Everton.
Yep, I said that, away Everton, yeah.
Aye.
That worries you. That's of what you see on the running, that's what worries you?
I wouldn't say it worries me. It's a complete and utter banana skin. Completely.
just down to the rivalry.
I played in the Liverpool side that equalled Nottingham Forest's unbeaten record. And we played Everton in the derby. And then Everton side, not as bad as this one.
Of course.
But they weren't very good, and we got beat 1-0. I mean, it happens. So I would rather not be going to Everton. Let me put it that way. I'd rather go somewhere else.
And you know the folks at Everton, they'll be up for it.
Can you imagine how
bad they want that one?
Us?
Yeah, stop Klopp from winning on his way out.
Yeah, that's a banana skin.
Could be very interesting there. All right, let's take a look at the boys' predictions before we move on. Manchester United and Liverpool squaring off Sunday at Old Trafford. Well, you know what happens on this show when everybody's in agreement. It usually goes the other way. Stevie, Robbo, and Mark all saying 3-1 Liverpool. I'm going in a vastly different direction, saying 4-1 Liverpool to beat Manchester United on Sunday.